What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hoax Series. I'm your host, Tyler, joined by my co-host, James. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, James. So the topic of the day is going to be gaining muscle in a caloric deficit. Is this a thing? And if you want to elaborate a little bit on caloric deficit for the audience, for the Hoax audience. So Hoax on that concept.
So I'm going to go with initially, I'm going to say hype with a few caveats. So I want to get your perspective first, and then I'll kind of dive into some detail on why I think this should be hyped.
Okay, hyped. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you that gaining muscle in a caloric deficit is a hype, and I'm going to let you kind of take the brunt of it first, and then we'll just kind of go back and forth. So yeah, I'm on board with the hype train.
And so I think we have to look at this in context, which is if we're looking at the general population, right, the average person who wants to improve their body composition, I'd say this is definitely possible, right? So we're looking at how can we gain muscle mass from a specific stimulus, right? So you're going to have the resistance training while then still training in a caloric deficit, right? So we've got to reduce calories. Now, if we have the right training stimulus, right, if we have good quality workouts and we have a relatively high protein diet, which we know is the substrate, right, that we need, which is protein to actually build the muscle. The data does tell us that, in essence, what you'll commonly hear referred to as a recomp is possible. Yep. Now, again, is this a strategy I'd be using for elite-level bodybuilders? Again, that's a very, very specific scenario with a lot of other components to it. But I think for your average person who's really just trying to improve their health, improve their body composition, again, I think the science is on our side, and I think conceptually it's on our side, which is get good quality diet, less calories, work out, eat lots of protein.
Yeah, for sure. Make sure the training stimulus is sufficient. Make sure that, like you said, the substrate intake is more than optimal. Because again, if you're in a deficit, you probably need to even spike it a little bit more than normal, or at least that's what I would tell my clientele. And the other thing that comes to mind is making sure that you're getting enough recovery. But I do absolutely think it's possible to increase muscle mass. Maybe not a bunch of it. Maybe not like the amount that you're going to see that you walk by someone and you're like, you got shredded in 2 months. You gained 17 pounds of muscle and dropped 20 pounds of fat. It's not going to be anything crazy like that. But the ability to quite literally put on some muscle while losing some body fat, absolutely, for your average pop. And I do think it's possible at higher levels. I just think it's going to be less and less. You're not going to see it as much as the population becomes more and more trained. But again, in novel or new stimulus, for sure.
Absolutely. So. And I think, like you said, it's kind of this magnitude of effect, which is, this recomps that we typically see in the research is you're looking at usually more in that 5-pound range, right? Where you're going to see a total difference in weight of, only 5 pounds. But again, we're looking at significant body composition changes where, again, we've put on a few pounds of muscle, but we've also lost a few pounds of fat. But yeah, if you're looking for that dramatic, lose 40 pounds of fat while gaining 20 pounds of muscle and these massive changes, again, that's going to take a much different approach than just a diet with a training stimulus. But again, I think 100%. This is definitely something to be hyped up and encouraged, again, especially when we're just looking at general health and the general average person.
Boom. Final answer. I'm going to still continue. Did not sway my opinion in any way, shape, or form off of what I believe to be a hype. I think it's a hype to be able to put on muscle mass while in a caloric deficit.
I'm going to stay hyped as well. Again, just make sure you're working out hard and getting good quality protein.
Absolutely. Boom.